Good evening, everyone. 6:03 p.m. on the 21st of January. Here we are, calling to order the January meeting of the Bear Valley Parks and Recreation District. We have a few guests online, and a guest in person. Would you like to comment, Jane?
No, just here to support you guys.
Okay, thanks. But online.
Online, if any of the people online would like to make public comment, please raise your hand and I will give you speaking rights. All right, I am not seeing any hands raised. So I think we're gonna move on.
Okay, great. All right, December minutes.
Evening.
Okay.
Motion to pass.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And Martha? Yes.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving ahead, Ally, you're up.
All right, I'll show my momentum here.
Oh my gosh,
Nope.
great.
Well, hold on,
We have a hand up?
I did get a hand up raised with Nancy and now it went back down again. Nancy, if you do want to talk, if you would like to raise your hand. So we did move through quickly. Otherwise it might have just been a mistake, so. Okay, it's not up again, so we'll move on with Ally.
Do you, either of you want to touch on what this is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are invited to talk at the school board meeting next week. And so Ally is here today to give her normal report that she gives, but she's actually going to give kind of a preview of what she's going to bring in the school district next week. So we these 3 slides together, and what we thought we would do is Ally will start off by just giving an update on the partnership that we've had for many years with the school district and the swim lesson program and what we do with them. And then we'll also then have Christy there as well to give a very abbreviated version of kind of the December 10th thing and talk to them about the bond and levy and just kind of the initial outreach of what we're planning on doing this levy and such. So we'll go ahead and start with Ally.
Okay, great. I have, first and foremost, I'm not going to read the entire thing now, but I do have at the school board meeting something I'll say to them about thanking them specifically on the partnership that we've had for 25 years and all the work the school districts put in, and the faculty, staff, kids, and just how wonderful it is to have them here and to host them, and then to have 150 to 800 kids per year going through swimming lessons. And while yes, I do organize all of it and sometimes teach, it's not it's on them. They're the ones taking their kids out of the classes, getting 75 kids on a bus to the pool, changed in the water, then changed again, then back on the bus, then back to school and home. And it's such an intense experience for everybody, our instructors included. And so heavily recognizing the partnership between what our staff do, what I do, what Kenna, the assistant supervisor, does, what Marcy's done, what everybody's done, Mike when he was in the position, and then how the school district also plays a part in that, big part in that. And so heavily touching on that. And then typically the stats here that are up on the slides, I just said it. We've been doing this for 25 years. I've been here 8 years, Marcy, many more. And then it's even before she was here. And it's just really important to point that out, that while we're being recognized now for it, we've been doing it for so long, and have served so many kids over so many years, and grown, and the youth in the community has grown so heavily. And so the program's changed drastically over time, but in a good way. And so it used to be a first come, first served basis, kind of, and principals and teachers would just contact the supervisor, get their spot and kind of go in. And so if that was all of West Side or all of May Street or however it worked out, that's who had the lessons and how it worked out schedule wise. And so they did have maybe 8 lessons and then it moved down to 6 lessons. Now we have 4 lessons every student gets, but it's because every kindergartner, 2nd grader and 4th grader in every single elementary school gets lessons, opposed to not us picking and choosing. It was just first come, first serve. So for a while, there was entire schools that were just not getting lessons, because they didn't get here on the, schedule on time, or, maybe it wasn't as, cost effective for them. They couldn't get buses or whatever the situation for them. And so now we have it where, it's scheduled out ahead of time. They reserve that space. I reserve the instructors and they can all, get in to get lessons. So they get 4 lessons, 30 minutes each. And then by the time each student is in 5th grade, they'll have at least 12 lessons led by a trained swim instructor. And all of our instructors are trained in-house. Some are WSI, water safety instructor certified, and I point that out just because parents can teach their kids or, take them to the river, take them to somewhere else and do it kind of on the fly. But it is a very, regimented Red Cross based swim lesson program that we go off of. And it's important to note that. So they're getting, life-saving skills. So, and then to note in the pictures, Kennedy, sad that she's gone, but she used to be an instructor, and then Kenna, who is the assistant aquatic supervisor teaching. So some great photos. We'll go on to the next slide
Can I
here.
have a quick question?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, so given 8-9 months of the school year, about how many weeks are they here? Since there's so many, an interesting statistic to hear.
Yeah, it's mostly every other week of the school year, excluding like the icky winter months. Just because we don't want to mess with buses and ice and possible snow and cold, and then like our deck is 61 degrees, and so we try to say,
Yeah.
don't have the kids here at that time. But it's good to note that we do start with 4th graders, and then the kindergartners are in the spring. So then by that point, kindergartners are at their most advanced, mature point. And the 4th graders, they're kind of like 3rd graders, but where we trickle it down that way. And then it's warmer for the little kindergartners to come in too. So mostly every other week. So then I'm going to talk about the goals of swimming lessons. So the point in this is to talk about water safety and us being recognized for that. So, we're teaching water safety and drowning prevention, and then basic skills. There's a ton of skills that the kids learn. And so I want to point out that we teach a lot, but the basics are floating on their back, simple forward swimming and breath control. And that's so you're swimming down at the waterfront and you know how to get back to land, or you're at Lost Lake and you can grab onto that kayak or whatever it is. And so it's, horrible when we find out that there's a drowning incident happened, and it's extremely preventable. And that is what we're trying to teach all of these kids in the community, that they can get these lessons, learn these skills, and hopefully, like I said, by 5th grade, all of these kids will have at least 12 lessons. And then hopefully they can, come back and do swim team or water polo, or, do something else, or just keep coming for open swims. And it's opening the door for many people in the community to come to the pool as well. And then other aquatics, partnerships that we have with school district, it's just good to note that, yes, we have this massive swim lesson program, but we also have, middle school PE classes that come over. They walk over. We had 2 crazy boy classes today. Elementary school open swims, which happen regularly, kind of off of the elementary swimming lessons, but we schedule those separately. Middle school boat races, they come and do this little fun event with their, building boats, and they race them in the pool. K through 12, so this goes through high school, which is really cool. Special learning, so open swims. And so they bring smaller groups, but they get this special time in the therapy pool to do their thing and be, in the pool and feeling really confident and good about the water, in a very quiet time as well, opposed to right now, which would be really chaotic. High school water polo and high school swim team that we know about. And then so the next slide is, if you want to go back, if there's any questions more about this specifically, or I will be presenting this. So anything that anybody thinks I should kind of elaborate on or add to, and there's much more I can say, but I was trying to give like a quick snapshot.
Has there been any involvement with Y East or no?
Yeah, we
Y
have
East comes too?
Y East lessons. It's separate because booking than the
Right.
school district, but yeah, we book them separately. Yeah, same with there's a few like Lyle and a few other schools in the surrounding area. The Dowells and scattered schools book too. And we kind of try to blend them in where we can, because we're trying to serve the Hood River County as much as we can, and then everybody else kind of meshes in around that. And there's actually one group, Glenwood, that they do it in the summer because they can't get in during the school year, and they have lessons in the summer that we serve too.
I know there's younger swim team too. Is that not mentioned here just because it's like not officially a school district thing, but like it would.
Like club swim
Yeah,
team?
clubs, yeah, like for elementary kids, there's swim team for elementary age kids too,
Oh,
right?
yeah, they are the school district, same with like elementary club polo and all of those kids, but it's separate than, I guess, us working with the school district and them booking out and working
Yeah.
with Parks and Rec specifically. That's more of their separate user group that they work with Shelley or Kelly, the water polo coach, and the water polo board, and, you know, to have like registrants go, so yeah, use that program. if that
So
makes
you're
sense.
trying to make sure to call out for the school district, like, here's the things we like arrange directly with you.
The
Yeah.
specific partnership.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yes.
yeah, okay.
Great. And then,
The only thing that I might add was under, when you mentioned like that. By the time they in fifth grade, they've had like 12 lessons. I might add just one sentence to say, for many of these kids, it's the only instruction that they will receive. Maybe not many, but for some of these kids, it's the only instruction that they may receive, and without it, they would not. Something like that, just to.
Yeah.
Because we do know that that happens, that there are people that only have already gotten any instruction.
And I guess, and like, I think there is a desire to continue to try to find a track for kids to like continue a program in middle school. And then by the time they get to high school, it's like they've passed basic competencies and they could survive. Or there's like a component where they do like become, you know, professional track instructor, lifeguard, you know, but those are our maybe long-term goals. Vision.
okay, now more of the current. Anthony, this is kind of his forte, but he, I'll mention it for him because it is the aquatic center. So the left picture and bottom picture, or now some people might be like, I don't even know what I'm looking at right here. This is the west wall, all the way in the back behind that, and this is the HVAC going into the west wall. So the big blue duct that you see, and that is the outside look. Now, the torn disaster, that's what it looked like previously, and it was just like you could see light air coming in, really making it cold on deck, and you could like people sitting on that west wall, it was just cold and uncomfortable, especially that is a therapy pool, got swim lessons, wasn't great. For many years, we've been trying to have a figure out a solution that's and you can kind of see he's done lots of like zip tying, and previous maintenance people have done a lot of work on it. It's not just Anthony, but his bigger fix is that I literally said a wrap. I'm not sure exactly what to call that. He worked his magic and was able to kind of cover that hole. So now doing that, it increased the deck by 4 degrees. Now that to some people, that's not a lot. To us, that is everything. Despite this fix and the heat being on 24/7, the deck is like, it's currently 63 degrees. In the mornings, it's like 59, 60. I don't even know what it is for masters. That's when I get here.
Oh my gosh, I mean, just to hear the number of people being like, can you please turn up the heat? And masters on the flip side, they're like, "It's hot."
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so the HVAC is trying to take 28, 29, 30, whatever degree air, and then bring it in and heat it. And it is working as hard as it possibly can. And so a lot of people are like, it's still cold, it's not working. It definitely is working. It's heating 30+ degrees. It is cold out. And so especially with this week where the temperatures are much lower, it's been getting a little bit harder to stay warm out there. And something else, the therapy pool, and this is just to note about, you know, the tent structure and how cold it is, how cold the deck is. 91 degrees in the morning when we open. By 6 p.m. it's like 83, 84 degrees. So every day we're losing that much heat. And then if we put the covers on, it heats overnight and then we lose it again. And so it's just losing heat, gaining heat, losing heat, gaining heat. And then Anthony and I did a little test. We wanted to see exactly how much heat is being lost from the wade pool and therapy pool when it travels all the way back there to the pit. And it is about 2 to 3 degrees that it loses just by going to the filters because of how cold the deck is and how cold it's underground, the piping is and everything. And so that's also to note that in combination with the cold deck, cold air, cold deck, we have some cooler pools. And so that is just the bigger maintenance items that we're working on right now, and bigger complaints that we're hearing from the public is that the pool is supposed to be warm. That's definitely not warm. The water is, the air temperature is not. And something to note, because I have heard this many times from many people over a long time now. It used to be warm in here. It used to be warm in here. It used to be hot. What happened? How's this? It's still broken. The opposite. It used to be hot because there was recycling old air. It was just taking the old air and not sending it out and not bringing in any new air. It was just recycling it, which is gross. It just all the pool chemicals and everything. And so it was nice and hot because it was taking 80-degree air and making it and warmer and warmer and warmer. And so it was nice and cozy out there and everything was condensating and warm. The HVAC got fixed. And so it's now working properly, which is sending all that gross air out and getting new clean air in. And that's why it is so cold. So that is just something to note of a lot of the community is having a hard time understanding what it used to be versus now, which is now is a good thing, even though it doesn't seem like a good thing.
And like literally, even though Anthony fixed a lot of it, there's still holes. I
Yes,
mean, you know,
yeah,
like,
it's a touch.
There's always one.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, if
it's
you've
like
ever,
heating the
if
outdoors.
you've ever walked by a bay, it feels like it's like the coolest air time and you can't, yeah, can't stop at all. So, yeah, that is, I don't have much else. That is my last slide. So unless anybody has any specific questions, I didn't want to dive too deep on all of the cool stuff because you guys are all so, your heads are like buried in it. And I don't need to just reiterate what you already know. So, yeah.
Thank you for all that.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Oh, God, she was there.
All right, so next on the agenda here, I have a resolution number 2526, number 2. This is a resolution that was suggested by STAO, our insurance company, basically. And it is to opt in for recreational immunity. So there was this. You guys have followed the saga. It's been going on for 10 years or more on recreation immunity, but they keep on plugging holes, and some people keep on finding loopholes. And one of the recent fixes that happened 2 years ago was there was this way for cities over 500,000 people to opt into this extra protection that expired at the end of this year, and now they opened up to everybody to be able to opt in for this. And it really goes into like this specific stuff where there were a couple cases of people, agencies getting sued when somebody got hurt on a trail who were commuting on their way to another thing. And they said that they weren't using the trail recreationally, they were using it for commuting. And so we now have to identify the use or that the trail could be used for many different things. And so there's a lot of different language in here of it could be used for bird watching and foraging and hunting and all these other things. And it says, not limited to, but, and it has like a big list of things. And so that's the recommendation, is to have all these specific things and then a big thing just to like show like a large amount of different items that it could be used for and make some specifics around the use. And so I had Ruben, our own attorney, look at this as well, but it did come from the attorneys over at STAO. He cleaned up just a little bit of stuff to make it unique for us, and then recommended that we get it passed. So,
And Ruben agrees.
Ruben agrees, yeah. So, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah. I would entertain a motion to opt in to the Senate Bill 179 for the immunity for special districts. For our special district.
And to pass resolution
And to pass-
2526.
Pass the resolution 252692.
Second the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great, thank you. Advisory Council update.
Actually found it
Oh.
first.
Oh, sorry,
We
I
don't
removed the
slide
slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it.
Um,
All right.
That's because it's very quick update, just
Yeah.
kind of 2 items to highlight unless Marcy thinks of something else after I say the 2 items. The main one is that the foundation, is continuing to plan capital fundraiser and definitely is looking for answers from the board in terms of an agreed upon total for that fundraiser. And so there's gonna be a slide later to talk about that, a proposal for the whole board to consider. And then another thing to call out is that there have been several discussions about doing strategic planning in the current in 2026 in May for the foundation to have, you know, a plan, a longer term vision, because it's been very project based so far with the Indian Creek Trail and now moving into the pool. But the timeline for that is that the board is looking at doing that strategic planning after the vote, because, you know, what the foundation is gonna focus on is likely would look very different depending on the outcome of the vote.
Yep.
Anything else you'd wanna highlight?
Hope we're continuing to plug along, trying to get all the things done on our working board.
All right, now, oh, sorry, advisory council. I removed the slide last minute. Advisory council update. So, some of you were at the last advisory council meeting, which was, held, a couple weeks ago now. So thank you for attending. And so you, have heard some of this, but I thought that I would just go over it. It was a great meeting. The council's been doing a lot of, advising for us right there, and this was kind of a chance for them to take a look at some of the operation stuff. Whoever's up until now, they've been focusing a lot on the pool, but we, you know, had those austerity cuts and those ideas for that. We thought it'd be great to bring this to the advisory council too and get their fingerprints on it, on what they would think we could do if the bond measure and the levy does not pass. It was a really great conversation. They brainstormed a lot of different things and came up with some stuff, but also focused in on some of those. And we really pushed them this time to give us a consensus and to limit it to items that they could agree on. Kate McBride did a good job of leading that group into a consensus. And when it came down to it, although there were a lot of different ideas around specifics on how this stuff could have been done, we kind of narrowed it down to these four things. Increasing all fees for recreation programs, pool admission, user groups with considerably higher rate for the out-of-district users. That was one that they really wanted to see the out-of-district users pay more than 20% for the higher one. We'll bring some of those ideas to you in a little bit here. Changing the rate schedule, and this kind of goes along with this one, but and this is more of kind of a marketing thing of flipping it up around, where we changed the rate schedule to where we mark the out-of-district rate as the standard rate, and then create a process for people to prove residency to be eligible for the in-district rate. And so what this is we just start saying like, hey, that, you know, this is our standard rate, and if you oh, you're a resident? Well, you know, we'll need to see a driver's license to get you this. But what we would really like to do is just push people to where with our new software system, we can set it up to where we are the ones that choose whether or not they're a resident or not. And when they come in, if they would like to get the residency, they just have to show the driver's license, and we can get them signed up as a resident, and then they'll get the resident rate for punch cards and passes and things like that. Same with, you know, if we were doing the recreation programs where they might have to sign up and they've got a higher rate, but all they have to do is one time come down here, just like you have to do when you get a library card. You have to go down to the library, you have to bring your a piece of mail with you or something and to get your library card. But once you do it, you're in the system and you don't need to do that again. And so we think it'll be a little bit painful at first for community and staff, but once we start getting everybody up on it, we think that that it will become a little bit more of an automatic thing. And then it just puts it to where we're always kind of pushing the main rate first with the discounts second if they have that. There's some things that we'll have to work out on exactly how we do it. We do know that people show up to this building in bathrobes sometimes without their wallet and their IDs, and kids get up and such, and you know, get dropped off without their parents and such. And in those situations, we will have to use some judgment there, but also just be able to tell them like, hey, you know, this is important that we, you know, you bring your ID in there when you do it, or bring your ID next time. We'll get you signed up and do some education with them and try and get them all understanding the way that we're doing things now. So that's kind of just one idea that they've got there. The other is evaluate the savings of not removing pool covers in the summer. We have done that, and we really don't think that there's much savings there with it. And there actually could be some pretty big adverse effects of to our air quality and to maintenance and such if we don't do it. So the staff is recommending at least one cover. It would be actually 2 panels, but 1 cover, if not more, so we could reduce it maybe a little bit with how many we're taking off. Instead of going 3 covers wide, we just go with 1 or 2. And mainly what that does is it just reduces the wear and tear on it and the chances that things will tear and makes it so it's not quite as much time. Especially putting the covers on. We usually take all the covers off in one morning, but putting covers on is sometimes a 2-day affair. This would turn it into more of a 1-day affair. If we were to do less. We would recommend continuing the removal pool covers. And then the last one was they just said if we were going to be cutting pool days. Sunday was suggested as being the least impactful of the days to close, while maintaining the operations as much as possible. So when they were talking about that was kind of a good bang for the buck of a thing. We did double check that with you know, some reporting and such, and that is the day that that would be our least impactful day as far as dollars goes. Now, that is to say that there are a lot of people that Sunday is the family day. That's the day that they can attend the pool and they can there's some equity components there too. We see more of our Hispanic population coming on Sundays. So there's other things to consider besides just the dollar amount. It is as far as the least impactful to user groups and the least impactful, or the one that costs us the most as far as attendance and the lowest attending day. It's Sundays.
In your reporting, did you happen to notice what was the most least impacted weekday?
You've done that.
We haven't. We've talked about. We talked about it would be something that we probably would work out with
It probably depends on how you slice it and dice it.
yeah.
Do what?
It just depends on how you slice it and dice it. I mean, because there's
The
important,
school,
there's
finance.
Yeah.
and user groups, you know, so like where are you putting your priorities? And so it probably would take some,
And it's a season
Some-
too. Like the school, you know, the sports
Yeah.
season is,
Yeah, school swim lessons right now. School swim lessons are 4 days a week.
Yeah, not Fridays for that, right?
Yeah.
That was- but then
Yeah.
other things happen.
Tuesday through Friday.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
it's
know.
not Mondays then.
No,
So
Monday.
Monday
could
could
be
the late-
potentially be.
So it sounds like that's something we need some data on for February. So next slide that's gonna be pulled up is kind of outlining decisions what we're gonna make today and decisions for February. And so because we have a lot to talk about today, for February is when we're gonna define together if the levy doesn't pass, what gets cut. And so the pool days factor kind of more into that. And so if there's additional data we need on that, that'd be helpful to raise now and have for February.
Yeah. Well, one other thing I think that was that I didn't put on this list, that was a kind of a reoccurring theme amongst amongst the advisory council, was if we were to make cuts in, say, like recreation programming or you know, programming to really focus on the youth. Not focus cuts on the youth, but focus. Yeah. Harsh.
Wow.
No. But the focus on preserving the youth, and remember to look at that, but more of the adult stuff. So again, in the next month, we'll be coming with talking about more of some of the recreation and fees and kind of what our cost recovery strategy is and that sort of thing, and bringing that up as well. So let's move into strategic planning here. And so these were some of the questions that we wanted to have answered in January. How will the pool rates change with the new facility? Will parkland be sold? This was just one of the FAQs. the bond amounts, the fundraising strategy and categories and options, the levy components and final amounts, so that we can kind of get that, and then just kind of a first pass of the with the ballot language. We're not actually like looking at the ballot language. I'm just gonna get a little bit of a feedback from you on any must-haves that you want to have in there. It's a very technical document, but we also want to have the PR firm that is working on messaging to weigh in heavily on this, so that the messaging mirrors the ballot language very closely. But we want to make sure that the board sees that first, so that you're not getting it. Most likely is our next board meeting in February will be approving ballot language, in which case there'll be just a couple of different changes there. So I didn't want you to be seeing that for the first time at that point, and then have the question of like, well, why didn't I see this here before? Then some things that we will be bringing up there in February as well is what happens if the bond doesn't pass? Like how long will the pool be maintained before being closed? Very tough question to answer, but
Which we had started discussing at a previous
How much
board
we
meeting,
spent,
yeah.
what happens if the levy doesn't pass, and what will be cut, and then confirming the ballot language. So first, we'll just look at how will admission fees will change if the measures are passed. These are just recommendations, but this is really what we would like the board to weigh in on. So what you see there in the italics is just kind of what we have heard and ideas that we've kicked around from the board. And between the board, advisory council, and others that kind of has given us some direction there. And so whether or not the measures pass, this isn't just like if it doesn't pass, but we're thinking that this is probably a good thing to do, whether or not it passes, is increase the fees moderately, kind of like what we normally do for like the in-district fees. I won't call them the regular fees because we might switch that. But the out-of-district rates will increase at about 50% more than the in-district rate. So if the in-district rate, for just even round numbers, was $5, the out-of-district rate would be $7.50.
Math in public.
That's why I said five.
I would have gone with $1. I hear you.
And these changes usually occur in September, and that's what we would stick with. It's usually kind of like when we're starting our new season, because we are coming back after shutdown, and we start the new fees at that time. Our normal rates, normally our kind of base rate is anywhere between like 3 and 6 or 7% or so. We didn't want to tie it to an exact amount or anything, or tie it into inflation or something. We like to kind of play with that based on, we'd like to it to land on a quarter, just for making change here at the front desk and things like that. But we also recognize that there may be some times when we need to make a larger catch up. For one thing, we really kept it at a very consistent rate, even when we were raising our pay quite a bit during COVID, when we were trying to attract more lifeguard staff and things like that. And so we didn't want to tie ourselves completely into something there. And we are doing a rate study right now to look at other places. That was some of the feedback that we got from advisory council and some others too, that they're saying that they're paying more in other places. And we just want to make sure that we are in line for the type facility that we have with what other places are doing as well.
So I mean, I'm all for upping our rates, to in line what we were talking about at that meeting.
Mhm.
My question though is it possible to still maintain a lower rate for kids on Oregon Health Plan or anything like that, as far as a way for them to verify? And I mean, especially if they're signed up like a membership kind of deal to get away, if you're local.
Yeah.
There are a lot of, I mean, like, for example, Portland Parks and Rec, or Portland Parks does something similar.
Yeah.
For their residents, if they are in any sort of need based, and I think there is the need to show some sort of proof.
Yeah, they usually have a card. It's usually pretty easy to
Right,
show.
yeah, and they have I think a sliding scale.
At this point, we're pushing them to the SwimRx program, which is great because we are still then getting that revenue.
right,
through.
but
the-
it's just not a guaranteed
Ex-
source of funding.
Exactly, yeah, so while we have the Summer X program, that's the direction that we would do, but if we did not have that, then we would try to address something like
I
that.
just wanna make sure equity stays if we up the rates.
Yeah.
That's, you know,
With the advisory committee and the second notation you have there.
The 50%.
Yeah, I mean, is that, are they feeling that's a realistic number? Because, you know, we've heard from them before about out of district rates increases. And I just wonder if they can, if it's been put together, you know, for them kind of clearly that, you know, we're talking about, you know, $1.
Yeah.
Or $2 or $3 or whatever it is. But, you know, I've had conversations with folks in that group who seem to think that an appropriate out of district rate would be, you know, $3,477. And, you know, again, it's just,
That is gonna make an impact.
I would say that the way I'd answer that is there are, I think, 16 people on the advisory committee, and if you ask them, everyone might have a little bit of a different answer. And so this is not something I think that we have gotten to consensus with them.
No.
People are all over the place on it, but it is really where, you know, there's gotta be a compromise somewhere, and it's kind of the cool temperature here. If everybody's a little bit irritated, we finally found the right one. But that's really ultimately up to the board and when where you think it should be. I do have the next slide there, just shows kind of an example of if we went up by 5%, a normal 5%, and then a 50% differential on that, or, you know, in districts, a rate would go from, you know, 525 to 552, and our out of district would go from 625 to 827. All of these changes, altogether, would only equal about an extra $28,000 in our operation fees, that total, to make all this. And so it's not making up a very large
No.
deficit or anything, but it is, I think, more, speaking to trying to make sure that the people that are not paying property taxes, are paying a higher share.
we are calling for a bit more than a 5% jump though, aren't we? For rates and whatnot?
We are,
I know.
that's up to the board, but the language up above was, increased moderately to help with rising costs, and that was where I was explaining how we normally do it. If the board would like to change how we normally do it and do it at a higher rate, and that is up to the board.
So I think it's important to so there's like two sides to this for the in-district rates. I mean, one is like charge people who are actually coming to the pool more, right? The flip side of something we heard last time around was, are my property taxes going to increase and then the fees increase so much that I can't afford to go to the pool? And so we need to keep that in mind too, particularly for in-district people, that they can still afford to come to the pool. I mean, you brought it up with the equity concern, right? And when we were working on these slides, like I did do a quick look at the Dallas, Portland, Pendleton, and Stevenson rates, and we're totally in line with all of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just looked close, kind of close places.
Doing like a comparison of like, you know, if the chart where we're the lowest taxing district and where right now I'm taking all of those facilities and doing the prices, and we are very much, our current pricing is very much in line with other facilities, and keep it in. One thing to keep in mind is that a lot of other facilities have a lot of amenities too. And so, I think it's like important to think about like what you're getting when you come to a facility and then compare.
my question was like, in terms of like characterization of moderate, and I get, you know, it's not I'm not trying to get it. It's 5% kind of typically what we've done in the past.
It's between 3% and 7% probably, yeah.
Yeah,
Is my
we're
kind of-
in, our happy spot is
How's
around
that for us?
5. I mean, and really it is like quarter, it's like based on the quarter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
You
yeah, I
know,
get, you know, you would,
yeah,
it's not 776, it's 775.
yeah.
but like just in this example right here, 5% brings us like from 525 to 551. We would have definitely say 550.
Right.
But that's a 5%. If we wanted to go up and get that to $6, that's not what. That's not, I'm clicking on this like it's a spreadsheet. That is a picture. But I do have the spreadsheet open, and I could look it up, but it's a considerable jump to go up there. And we don't have to do everything at the exact same percentage. We could do admission at this one. Marcy pointed out that our private swim lessons are quite a bit higher here. This is based on 2024, 2025 data, because that was the one that I had available when I was building this chart. I haven't updated it with the update. This is kind of older numbers. This is more just giving you an idea of what it will do. It's not the exact thing. Yeah.
Because right now it's an adult admission 575. For instance, that's what I have written down from the website, and that's
It's on the website.
youth is 475.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, to address kind of what you were saying, this has been a typical increase in a typical year, 5%. A typical increase in a typical year, period. Okay.
Yeah, and we raised rates every year. I think the only year that we did not was during COVID.
But to my earlier point, we used to subsidize the pool at about 50%, and now we're subsidized at 60-40. So our costs have risen at a higher rate than our rates have.
Mhm.
So, we could say, we could have some sort of policy thing that says that we will try and recover 50%, or we will raise it at the rates that our costs go up, or something like that. Which I think is defendable.
Well, it's defendable unless the bond passes. Because then we would expect to see maintenance costs. And I get this is fungible, but decreasing in a sense, because we're not having to expend so much for HVAC and having systems that are outdated and expired. I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna
Yeah.
walk perfectly, but.
And programmatically, you would expect the revenue to increase
Yeah.
because it's a new facility,
Right.
something shiny and new. And B, programmatically, we can likely schedule and
I would say that pools are a complex system though, and there's no, there's no guarantee and nothing that I would never make that statement that maintenance is going to go down with the new facility.
No,
But I understand where you're coming
and that's, I mean, just
Yeah.
because I'm okay with how it is, 60-40 and not having something more prescriptive in terms of achieving a fee structure that it has a 50-50 self-sustaining and 50% support of the pool. Just given the uncertainty of how things are progressing with potentially a new facility. I mean, I don't know if we're there yet.
Yeah.
That's, I guess.
Yeah.
If that-
And that's fine. This is something that the board can do each year, but if they, in a future year, would like to, update how we do that. We're just talking about what we would like to do for this next year.
Yeah, I think the discussion is making me wonder if we need to plan for a further deeper discussion, or if you think if the census we're close enough on the right track with what we have for right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I fully
I
agree.
think so. I don't think we need to go any deep personally. I
Okay.
mean, my question was answered, and it sounds like we are in line with the other pools around. I mean, that was the part that I was concerned about, that we're particularly low compared to the other ones. So if we're not, I mean,
we're not.
And really, we're not saying that we need to set the rates today or anything. What we're saying is we'd like the FAQ, like do these sentences here match about what you would like to see us do.
I think we have a little wiggle room in our rates, like we could conceivably raise our rates moderately, but and then it's up to you as to how you want to deal with the out of district.
I mean, I think signaling as we do here, that rate and that kind of increase is critical right now today. And so I would, I think the in-district piece, we can talk about what moderate is, but I think signaling that to the folks that they are seized with that issue is critical, and I think 50% is a good number.
it was almost absolutely universal at the advisory counts. And I think it just for what it projects to everybody else that look at Portlanders or whatever and it comes use our space, they should be paying a bit more. I think there's no argument against that. in my opinion. But
Except maybe
That's in
um
my opinion.
extra challenge of implementing it,
Yes.
right?
As long as
So-
you're okay with still especially general admission still being on the quarter. You know, that would probably be our only caveat. There's only so much we can do with counting change back.
I mean, can't we just make them all equal? I mean, can't you guys just make them nice and even, 6, 7, or what?
We
Oh.
I did
We
not-
could, then it's, some of them are going up by like 8%, some of them are going up by 20% to get to that dollar amount.
Seems cleaner.
And, yeah, we could, I would be happy to look at that because honestly, for account change and new things like that, giving the quarters would be great.
Mhm.
And how much?
The amount of times I have to go to the bank and get like $100 worth of quarters and take back the quarters. But
We do have a.
You do have some, yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
I mean, they got rid of the penny before it was cool, so we're tracking well.
Good with this one? Do we, I don't think we need a
No.
vote. It sounds like there's general consensus.
general
This
consensus is good enough, like that, you'd be okay with this going into an FAQ. Let's move on. Will parkland be sold to pay for the pool? This is one, that, mostly has to deal with Barrett, because we do get asked this question, so we just wanted to make sure that the whole board was okay with our answer. And, we wanted to open up with just kind of a statement about us being stewards of public lands, like as a Parks and Rec, especially if people ask us about like Parkdale Park, West Side Park, and we have had people ask us about, other parkland, why are you buying parkland that you're not using it for parks, can't rightly sell that and pay for the pools? And I think that just pointing out the fact that, that's one of the things that we are here for, we don't sell, we're not the business of selling parks to make up things, because we're stewards of the land. And we are planning for future generations. Barrett though is its own issue. And so we thought we need to have a specific answer for that. So we open up with just like the whole thing of parks, one of our key responsibilities is to provide parks and preserve parkland for future growth. And then one point of controversy over the years has been Barrett Park. They're advocates for selling Barrett Park and they're advocates for preserving it. And then just kind of having two arguments in here of bringing up in recent years, the district has explored a partnership with the school district and community college to use the Barrett Park for an ag tech program. The idea has stalled due to staffing changes at the educational agencies, but it's still being discussed. If those talks do not resume, we'll move forward with a revised plan for the reimagined use of the park. Basically saying we can still work on it. The other part is, even if we did sell it, and due to the grant restrictions, the Barrett property was sold, if the Barrett property was sold before 2032, half of the proceeds would be returned to the state. It's appraised at 900,000, so if sold now, it would only yield approximately 450,000. Due to the penalty of selling the land prior to 2032, selling Barrett Park is not considered at this time. If sold after 2032, the full proceeds would go toward one of the other many district needs. So I think that just gets at if we were to sell it.
Yeah.
So, my outreach.
Yeah.
So I guess first part, I would like to say is, I would write it a little bit differently, but just be proposed strategy, or, will parkland be closed? And then that first bullet, no, a key part of it, and then having another one, well, what about Barrett Park? And then going into it here. I think, those are two different points. Absolutely, and then now I'm going to relate what in discussing this with a number of folks, I was surprised at how seized they were with Barrett Park. Not, again, I'm just new, I'll know the thing, but it very much was a sticking point and a rallying cry for a parks department that is not using money properly. And their point was, Barrett Park, again, was just an example of that. And thing though, I will say though, is that when each in turn offered solutions regarding Barrett Park. None of it was sell to defer the cost of the pool.
Yeah. They might use it for a different purpose, really.
Exactly, and so the thing that, you know, I mean, this, I've, you know, I see a couple of points where I was like, "Ugh," and then yes, and kind of in and out, but, you know, that, like, the last sentence of the third in recent years, I would delete that. You don't have to, but I mean, you know, this is still being discussed. I mean, I think our talking point should be, because of restrictions on the land, we'd love to see this thing, be a partnership with CGCC. We're pursuing that anew. We need time to resolve that. And then going into the very real part of the restrictions we have in the grant, and that, because that's fact. And then I would get rid of the last two sentences of the last bullet. Due to the penalty starting there and just
Don't put that?
no.
I think
I think that's strong.
Yeah.
I
It's helpful to be
disagree.
clear, like, it helps answer the question, maybe we phrase it differently, or, and this is
Why?
the proposed, what?
No,
Oh.
like, why would that only be half of the amount? You have to have that second sentence to.
It's just
Oh, that
explaining,
helps
we wouldn't,
explain
yeah,
it.
we wouldn't
Uh-huh.
revisit it until, I mean, this is something we wouldn't revisit till 2032 is essentially what that's telling me, or at least not
Right.
realistically. In
Right.
terms of how much you're
And
losing.
it's kind of implying we don't know what the future holds.
Right.
2032 is a considerable ways away.
And we have kind of two answers here that, to the same question, and I think that like this one could start off with like, even if we decided to sell it, all of this other stuff, you know, just to let them know, like, we're still looking at ways to use it, but if we decided to sell it, we wouldn't even do it till 2032, that sort of thing there.
So I mean,
Mhm.
2032 is an eye blank for these people that I spoke to. I mean, they've been around forever. They were here when Jesus was here, and it is. I'm just concerned that it's unconvincing, to say that, you know, we don't know what that will hold between now and 2032. Again, just based off the language that I heard from them. And I was trying to get to something where, again, it wasn't ever sell it to defer. It was, you know, my words, you know, what the hell? County's never gonna let you do anything with it. And, you know, what are you doing with it to make it productive, worthwhile, you know, whatever, and the ag program was raised. So I just, as much as we could be kind of clear, and I don't, you know, I get it. And things will change, but I just worry about kind of an impression that we're, you know, indecisive. And it kind of more of the same of Barrett Park was a mistake. And how do we, what, yeah.
I can see just removing the last line then, based on what you're saying there. You can still keep the due to the penalty of selling land prior to 2032, selling Barrett Park is not being considered at this time, done. And then leave that out of there. That's the happy medium as far as I'm concerned, because I think it still needs to be said. But, I mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not, so are you kind of saying we should decide now whether we're keeping Barrett Park or not? Is that what partially what you're saying?
A little bit, but I'm willing to have it, you know, hey, let's, you know, there are some things out there. Let's exhaust those things. And then, you know, if all of those things don't work out. I mean, my, you know, would be, let's in 2032 sell it. I mean, and I don't know if we can be that prescriptive, but that is kind of how I was kind of leaning toward it. And I think, you know, the ag program at its best would take you know, a bit of time to resolve and to have them invest and figure it out. And I want to see that play out fully before we, you know, do, you know, anything really, but showing that we are looking at this with the eye toward, you know, something like this ag program, I think would be powerful.
One issue I see is nobody here is guaranteed to be on the board in 2032.
Yeah.
And so to make any promises for the board in 2032 or make, so I think that the next time that we believe it's prudent to be considered would be 2032. But that's something for another board to decide. I don't think that you would say.
And I don't, maybe I'm overspeaking it. I wouldn't want to, you know, because another board could decide whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
But as much as we can be clear about Barrett Park, and this goes a long way to doing it. You know, I do want to say that this statement there goes a long way to doing it. I was, again, just a little bit taken aback by how seized folks were. And again, that's my own naivete and you know, newness to this.
But I think that this is one of the most succinct ways to put what we've already discussed, but it was not the only reason that we kind of made this decision at this time. It was the most fiscally conservative that just stands out with some of those arguments that you heard. And I think you're right on point. From those that I heard from as well, that were like, well, sticking point, you know, okay, if you sell it, they weren't roll it back into the pool. But it was also kind of a move the goalpost for a lot of individuals I heard, because it was there. I can anchor it, but when I reduced that and said, okay, imagine that's not the issue, they're ready to go secondary and tertiary reasons why they don't give a damn. And why they're not really leaning in toward it.
For the
Maybe.
pool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that was just well, this is why I'm not gonna vote for that.
Right.
So do something about it.
Right.
Okay, well, what if that were no longer an issue? Well, here's my next reason why, and my next, and my next. And to the point of, well, we're only getting half the value out of it before 2032. There were a lot of people who came in here and spoke to us and said, I get a lot of value out of it right now.
Yes.
And that mattered equally as well, but we're not gonna put all of that up there. So I think to your point, we're not guaranteed to be here in 2032. So right now, this is why no is the answer. And we can move along and just answer that question.
Well, this doesn't have to be the exact language there. I think we can take this and massage it a little bit better, but I think I see the points there. I think that basically that last sentence maybe of shortening it or just saying something like to the penalty, it's not prudent or not financially prudent to sell at this time or something like that, just leaving it at just not right now, but not having the 2032 date there, or not making any sort of assumptions for the future, but just saying it's not looking to sell right now because of the financial things.
I don't have strong feelings on this, but I do think there is value in the last sentence because of reminding people that the pool is not the only thing. You know, a lot of, some advocates for selling Barrett Park are supporters of West Side Park, and so it, you know, an argument could be in 2032, an argument could be selling Barrett Park, use that money to develop West Side Park. Like, and so and sorry if you don't like that I said that out loud, but you know, like.
You can say it, I mean, it's gonna cost way more than money than we did.
Yeah,
Barrett, but
totally,
yeah.
totally, yeah, it will
Yeah.
cost way more,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd only help.
Yeah.
In that direction, but that is, you know, a perspective of some people, and so just reminding people that there are other projects that will need money, like, over time.
I mean, do we even need, I mean, okay, so do we even need those last three paragraphs? Cause like, we're not talking about all the other parks. Can we just say those first two sentences? No, a
Well,
key part of parks, and I mean.
People are gonna ask specifically about Barrett. And that's so, originally, I think we had this FAQ addressing all of our parks, and I had that all, took all that out just to be like, no, that's not what we do. We don't sell our parks.
Right.
But Barrett's the one I think that people will bring up. because I think it's very easy for us to say West Side Park may not be a park now, but it, you know, we have future plans for it here in the future. Barrett, people have been hearing that before, and our plans have not gone as we wanted them to. However, like Mike was saying, there were a lot of people that did come to our board less than a year ago and say how much they love it as open space. And that could be when I was saying something about like the, you know, the planning, stuff, you know, that sentence that we did strike. We moved toward a revised plan to reimagine the use of this park. That was what I was getting at there was it might not be the ag tech program, but it could be something else. We might just say that as open space and decide to plant trees throughout the middle of the park instead of just leaving it open. We might decide, you know, there's a lot of different things that we could do ourselves there still with the property on just leaning into the whole open space thing and not trying to keep on fighting to put fields on it.
And I think we lose people that way. I think it's an off-ramp for a sector, our community. And especially in the valley. And that's a group that we desperately need to have on side. You know, again, I'm trying to relay conversations and again, it was like I said, I was surprised. And again, it was very like, you know, it was a mistake. It should never have happened. It shows poor management. It shows poor use of funds. And why should we support you with a pool when you did Barrett Park? And so, yeah, again, agree with it, don't. You know, it's a threat out there. And, you know, again, not trying to sign the next board up for something we're doing now. But as much as we can, and again, you know, point to some options. And then just, you know, talking about the grant restrictions and then leaving it at that. I'm okay with, you know, striking those two sentences and leaving it at that.
So you just want it to be, kind of want it to be shorter, don't just.
Yeah, I mean, well, shorter and then saying that, hey, dude, this is one of the options that we have. We're looking at this partnership and give us time to pursue it. Cause and again, in all of them, it was never, you've got to have it in escrow before May, before I support pool bond. It was, you need to have a plan or at least be able to talk to it in some way. Again, it didn't have to, you know, it was never meant to be built out to this MOU and signed and all of that. But again, just trying to point to this, and I think it does that. Yeah.
Nothing to add beyond where you're at right now.
I think we can, this may not be the exact final language, but I think that we can use we've got the gist of what we need to do to get it where it should be. And it can still change, and we're still, you know, these FAQs, some of them will be more for us and some of them, you know, whether or not, I'm not sure if this will be on a website or anything, or if it's just going to be one that we'll be able to have, we just want to have our talking points to the board and for the advisory council and for everybody to, if people ask, that we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah, so we're planning to have a really detailed FAQ that, you know, folks that are out helping explain things and so like questions that are maybe not the question that every other person might ask, but every 10th person might ask, you know?
Right.
And then the FAQ on the website would be more of the really common questions.
Yeah. All right. Next, this is, we're starting to get into, dollar amounts and things like that for the bond. And so, the total project cost, that was given at the December 10th meeting, was $43.5 million for the facility. At the last meeting, we talked about different strategies, and that's going back and talking to the architects and seeing different things that we could do to have the bond dollar amount be less. And there's two kind of things that directions we went with that. One is trying to figure out what we could fundraise for and get with grants on one side, and the other is different areas that we might be able to cut within the facility. And so we went back to the architects with some of that and came back with some ideas here. Let's see, oops. And so let's see. First, I just wanted to share this slide again. This is our dollar amount so that you can kind of get an idea of like of about where the district the rate would be for these different things and where we land. And I put this all into a spreadsheet here. So this top part right here is what we got for estimates at the December 10th open house. So about $43.5 million. That was about $23 million in the cost of materials, the design contingency, the cost escalation for a build date of April of 2027, how much the labor is on that, and then the other required costs, site analysis, permit fees, project management, owner contingency, that sort of thing. And so looking down here at cost reductions, we've got a couple different buckets. The stuff that you see here in peach is other money that we can bring from different sources. And these are all things that I can change in this spreadsheet to update. So this is where, and on that sheet before you saw it was more of a range, but fundraising. So this would be what the foundation could bring. And I just put it in a holder number there, a little bit of a optimistic holder number there, but the high end on $2 million. But we don't know what people are willing to do there. There were some ideas in that last slide there for perhaps naming rights. If the board was open to us being able to name like the competition pool or the rec pool or the splash pad or the terrace or something, a dollar range in there that maybe somebody might want to pay for that. And then maybe the named items, we could have like either, plaques on the wall or, something like that, to have something where people could donate to a certain thing. I don't want to get to the point where we're like children's park, where we've got a little label on every single water slide and every ladder and set of bleachers and such. But if we had like one area on a wall to honor the people that paid over a certain amount, we could have something like that. And then ideas of commemorative items. We've talked about like bricks and things like that. My only caveat with that was that it's an actual fundraiser. It's not just something where the cost of the brick is about what people are donating to get the brick. We want to be significant enough that have to do a fundraiser. There's some ideas. And then the other thing I brought up, Christy and I were talking about it, was we got to make sure that bricks are indeed the best material. I don't want to do something where all of a sudden we're saying we're doing pavers and then the architects come back and tell us, pavers just raised your hardscape bill by 20%, and now the bricks aren't even paying for themselves by doing bricks instead of stamped concrete or something like that. So we would have to like make sure whatever that thing is, that's something we'd probably be doing more in the design phase as we're going through design. But coming up with that, and then the other is the grants for outdoor components. And so this would be things for like maybe the splash pad, the patios, things like that. We can, as I mentioned before, there aren't a lot of grants for indoor things for this, but we did talk with the state and are figuring out exactly where we could spend on outdoor stuff. That we actually did use a grant when we remodeled the front of this building back in 2002, I think. And so
In the patio.
with the patio, the patio and the staircase and such. So we are able to use those funds for that. Now, neither of those are guaranteed, and this is where we had said that we've got a little bit of ability to push it a little bit because we can always back this up with either reserves that we have or STCs or some other things. But if we push some of these things to it, we can reduce the bond number. The other one that we looked at was potential reduction costs. And so we were talking about glass, and they came up with, if we reduce the glazing by 10%, so less natural light here in the building. That's the skylights or the big lights around there, or not lights, but glass and such. That just 10% reduction in glazing is about $130,000, $133,000. This one right here is a gimme. We'll go ahead and take this. There was a calculation that they had off on the pool depth for the competition pool. And they made that calculation change, and that would cost, that was 150,000. So that's an easy one. There's a couple ones like here. There's certain like equipment, like laundry or display boards or appliances, things like that. That's all factored into the building cost. And I was talking with Christy about this earlier. It's kind of like when you buy a brand new house. Sometimes you can buy a house from Pulte or one of these companies that's selling brand new homes, and you buy this appliance package, and you end up spending more on your appliances. Whereas if you buy like a custom home, oftentimes you can say, no, I'll buy all my own appliances, and you leave that blank, and then you go to Home Depot yourself, you pick out the appliances, you buy them. You're not getting a contractor markup. You might not get as nice of the commercial stuff or stuff that comes there, but there's things that we can do there. Things like the scoreboard for the swim team actually owns our scoreboard here. They were the ones that thought and installed that, and maybe it is that we just run conduit to spaces and things like that, but we don't put things like that in there. So there's an idea there. And then landscaping by others, that's basically they would leave this kind of blank, and we would pay either contractors ourselves or come in there to do that. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think that landscaping probably should be part of the whole project. It's nice when you open it and you have all of that there, but that was one of the ideas that they had come up with too. And like I say, I can change some of this, but when I do all of that, it gets us down to 39,663. Now, if I just deleted just that one, it pops us up into the 40 million mark. But as we saw before over here, 40 million would be about 64 cents per thousand if we got it brought it to that, which is a pretty good savings, down from 67 or 69 cents per thousand for about what.
So if we just did the 2.5, which was the fundraising and grants, that gets us to 66. Did I see that correct?
Yeah.
If you mean, well, we would never delete this one here.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so then the thing that I'm concerned about is that when we, you get to a project with these kinds of numbers, and I 150, yeah, I mean, fine, perfect, but if we just did that, would it 4,389, so that's still 66, right?
No, that's the lower. That's 40 million. 389 would be
65. Say or
64.
65.
Yeah.
And we're still at 37 for the levy, so 62.
No.
Down a little.
Oh,
We're-
did we?
we're-
Oh, we're getting there.
Well, What's up ahead?
Just
Okay.
wait, just wait.
Tracking ahead tonight, don't know how.
I guess, I mean, the thing that again, with having a turnkey pool when it's done and
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Cause that, again, it's. Yeah, you don't want people, I don't know, I'm 65 cents.
Mhm.
And again, I get it, but seems like a good number.
Quick question. I love the detail and the nitty gritty and all of this that's going into it. No stupid questions. The concept of sourcing locally and shaving that 10% with Cardinal Glass, or going to Tumalum for some of the lumber, like what can we do in that realm? Is that just way out in left field, or is that we stick with our community and we can give a discount or a donation and we can shave a little bit here and there? Because we're saying 150K matters. And they might want that mark and the goodwill to everything that goes with it, in terms of we are doing everything possible in our area with what we have available even if it's shaving pennies.
I think that is a great idea. To just put that as a goal and something that we would put into like the RFP process when we are bidding it. But I don't think that we could count on that at this stage in order to lower our dollar amount to stay like we plan on.
Right.
On doing this, but I think that that's a.
It's an aspiration.
We need those initial
Yeah,
commitments.
for
and you
sure.
Can't guarantee at that, okay.
Yeah.
But still, all right.
Yeah,
And what's our backup plan if, like, so we punch in all these numbers and we land here and it gets us to the cost of the pool and fundraising, we don't hit 2 million. So what's our backup plan if we hit 1.275? Is that where we dip into some of our general funds, and how much how much of our general funds are we talking about tonight?
Before you answer that, can you go back to the fundraising page?
Yep.
So, and we do need to talk about the fundraising page a little bit more, Eric, because not that, this.
Naming the pool stuff.
Yeah, so the fundraising focus and targets.
Right.
So you're gonna have an additional answer for this, but with this strategy, part of the concept is it's around these three categories of things. And so part of the approach could be if we do not raise the 2 million, we kind of have direction on where to cut, because the fundraising was for indoor outdoor connections. Okay, we don't raise enough, we're gonna have to cut down on overhead doors, we're gonna have to cut down on glazing more, right? We don't raise money for the recreation pool. Okay, we don't have as many features in the in the recreation pool. So that's part of it. And then the other part is some backup funds.
I wanted to say, like, there are things, Mike mentioned before that he was very worried about the splash pad not making it in the cut. And I think that that's the sort of thing that we really try and protect with our funds, to say like, we want to have the splash pad, but we also, I don't think, want to use the splash pad and put that in our core messaging, just because I think our core messaging is much stronger if we're saying that we are just replacing what we have. And the splash pad is
fundraising bonus or something.
is seen as some, as the, it's not the necessity of that extra nice thing or whatever. But that's where we try and protect that with that dollar amount that we have in there. It's not just the reserves and the STCs, although we've got money in those, but we could also, if we need to take out a small loan, we could, like we did that when we bought the bought the West Side property. Took out a loan against future STCs or against our own rate or something like that.
Okay.
That
I
it
just
could
want
also
to make sure we
be
have there was a backup.
savings from the year that we are closed, to go in toward that. So there's different areas that we could do as a backup right there. Yeah.
But
But I-
it's
but
like
I-
a mix of things,
But mix of
right?
things, and I actually like your point too, because that I think puts the pressure on. If we announce, oh, we've got a backup, we know how we're gonna take care of it and everything, it's less pressure for people to donate and to do this. So I think that we kind of have to have both, but I think that we identified a couple of things that we really want to make sure that we do. The other thing that when I was talking to Christy about this earlier today is the caveat is there's no, we can say what we're going to do here, but there's also no real guarantees to where, like, we don't know what inflation,
Well, the bond
tariffs,
market is.
the
I mean,
bond
we
market,
have
all these
this good on the
different
bond market
things
right now.
in 2 years
Yeah.
or a year and a half when
Yeah.
we're going to bid.
Yeah.
And so, we can make all this, none of these are promises. This is all just like our direction on the direction that we would, that at this point in time, with the information that we have, that we want to go.
So all that being said, my 2 cents would be, I'd like the bond to be at 40 then. And we make up the difference on all the ways we're talking. And then that's a nice even number. We were at what, 60 the first time, right? The last time, I mean,
72.
yep, 72. So that we can tell people we cut it almost in half. And we're still at a target where I think we're able to hit that 43.5 relatively close, or with some cuts here and there.
Yeah,
I-
you can go back to the
And that
spreadsheet.
keeps us, I mean, that's I like the 40 because I just think it sounds good. And I think it's close enough for us to hit these other targets. That's my 2 cents.
And I was looking at it kind of slightly differently, and it's between 64 and 65 cents.
Sense, yeah.
And for me, I thought 65 cents gave us a little bit of flexibility in terms of cost and unintended or unknown expenses. And then it is a penny.
I think once we see the levy numbers, I think then maybe we can see what the combinations would be, and then we go based on that too, but I mean, my first gut tells me 40, but yeah, I hear what you're saying too.
We'll see the levy numbers in just a little bit.
Yeah.
So, do you wanna come back to this spreadsheet and make a final decision? And after we've looked at the levy? So before we pass off of this though, for the fundraising, I was hoping to get either support or redirection for the foundation, for, back to this slide. About whether the sport, yeah, so both, it's not showing yet. Oh, there it is.
Are we okay
Yeah,
with
the two
redirects?
things, so just making sure that, those three areas of focus.
Yeah.
Are indeed, you know, you're on board with that?
Yeah.
And I'm all for the naming rights. I have no
Okay.
problems with that personally. I don't mean, if someone's willing to pay bonus
Yeah.
money, let them put their name on there. I mean, it's a public, I don't know, I don't mind that.
I'm in agreement.
100%, yeah.
Okay.
Martha?
Okay, great. Ms., what about Martha? Martha, do you have anything you want to bring up here? Okay.
Moving on, since it sounds like people want to talk about levy. We went back in, we mentioned at the last meeting too, that we wanted to.
Sorry, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
My headphones went out, so I apologize for that. So I'm here, but I'm fine with what you guys are talking about.
All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Thanks.
At the last meeting, when we were looking at that 37 cents, I was trying to figure out how we could get it down below our normal rate that we have right now. So right now, we're at about 35 cents per thousand is our permanent rate. And so looking at a lot of different things. One is I actually used the dollar amounts that Piper Sandler, the company that did our bond rate, had for our total assessed value for the district, which was different than mine. I was using the older numbers and they had some new projection numbers. So I put that in and that was able to give me a couple pennies just on its own, which was great. The other thing that I did was I think the toughest thing for us to sell and talk about was the admin, some of the admin position things. Like, we were really looking at the recreation, the parks and trails, and the funding the recreation gap. The recreation gap actually needed to come up a little bit. We've had kind of looked at some new numbers and such, and that was at 100,000 before. I raised that to 150,000, but then I put some of the indirect admin fees for both pool and park maintenance got adjusted a little bit, but then I just got rid of those extra positions for the admin section and was able to get it down to 33 cents per thousand. And so I figured coming in at below the dollar amounts that we had before. Remember last time this was, I think, 43 cents per thousand was what we asked for in the levy in 2024. And so we're now a full dime less in the levy, a quarter less, a quarter, 25% less of what we had asked for before, and coming in under our rate. So when we put those together, sorry, this is hard to do on Zoom here. Okay. This is wait. Here.
So it would be 0.35 plus 0.33 plus 64.65.
Yeah, so that is at 62. I think that this would probably be what do we say, 64 cents is what we at 40 million, according to that other chart. So 33 cents, 64, be at 97 cents would be about what our total additional rate would be. So it would make someone's total rate be about $1.32 per thousand is what they would be paying toward Parks and Recreation. When if we put all that together, and I think that's considering where we were a few years ago, of being over $2 or right around $2, and getting it down to to 97 cents total for the levy and the bond, and being able to bring the levy costs down underneath what our district rate is. I think that this is that we've done a lot of cutting here in order to be able to try and make this a more reasonable package for people.
I would agree. Maybe I don't know where else you can go lower. I mean, what we want to try to do.
So there is, I guess, you know, and my only, and I'm not gonna get hung up over a penny, but my only thing was 64 by 65.
Mhm.
And the total for the pool, everything else I think is what we need to do. I want to acknowledge the fundraising, which I'm confident about. But I just wanted to think about and say out loud, kind of like the other sources, not other sources, but the ways we could augment 64 cents if we had to. And I guess the only thing I would ask is there is a capacity within the district to augment the 64 cent number if we had our backs against the wall. And I think the answer is yes. Not taking into account the uncertainties around fundraising, but just thinking about a project this size, cost overruns, things here, things there, and having that add up. Does 64 cents stress that number
So I
too
would say
greatly?
if we're at 41 or 42 even, I think that 42 would be reasonable, but I think if we stick at 41, I mean, I like 40 because I like 40, but if we were at 72 before, we could still say we're over 30 million less than
Yeah.
before. To me, it's just it's how you can say it and tell people in simple terms. So 30 million, I mean, I think if we're at 72 the first time, if we can be at 42 or lower, and even 41 makes us, we can say we're over $30 million less than what we were asking before. I mean, that's still, it's not quite saying we're only asking 40 versus 72, but still, I think you can still market it and say it in a way that sounds good.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
no, I think the story's there. Yeah.
So
I get my only concern is the 64 by 65, and I think that there's a capacity to make up if we had to, given that this thing will be closed for a year during construction. You know, there's monies that could be, scavenged and repurposed a little bit. Again, just thinking about the size of a project and cost overruns. Does 64 stress? Does that give you palpitations, Mark? I mean, if it doesn't, then I'm good with 64.
I honestly, I will say that this is the board, like, I'm not, like, this is where the board really comes in on whether or not it does to you or not. Like, it does not matter to me.
Okay.
I think that the total price, the main thing I want to do is be under 99, or under $1 to be able to say 99 cents, and that's it, we're still there. But I think that that's where we would probably update this then to say like that maybe the grant would be 250 is what we would be counting on. And 1.5, I mean, I don't know if we have to change our goals there.
why are we doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Well, you're so that things will add up
Right.
to where we say.
I mean, I do agree with Brian. I think that he's taking a more prudent approach, and we've talked about all the ways to nickel and dime it down. And then when you look at where we were last go around versus this one, I mean, it's really just kind of hashing it back. And I get the fundraising and I get the this and the that could work, but the meat and potatoes really is what we're asking for now. And to the point of what you got the levy down to, and that it's under a dollar ask. And I mean, we're gonna have some other storytelling to put out. The levy is 5 years and it's, here and there. What else are we doing afterward? And how does this play? I mean, a penny and $1 million does mean something.
Yeah.
And I'm in agreement with that. And I can go either way, but I totally see where Brian's coming from.
I mean, I think that already is fine. I mean, just the 2 million number on the fundraising is just like, okay, that seems high in my, I mean, and maybe we hit it, that's awesome. But 1.5, even that sounds better to me as far as what's a relatively reasonably attainable. 2 million sounds a little intimidating for fundraise in our small town. I mean,
And and also I think 500 is a moderate
Grant.
grant ask. So, I mean, I think there's wiggle room in a lot of the areas and a lot of I think it's just, there's a lot of unknowns, right?
totally.
You know, so.
Yeah, and then the flip side to bringing it down to 1.5 million is there's a lot of people that are saying you should raise all the money for the pool.
Hmm.
So, and we know that that's not
It's a,
practical for, at least for a year-round facility.
Right.
Right. And, yeah.
I mean, and I think a good answer is like, we're gonna move the goalposts if we reach our 1.5 million goal, and we'll move it to 2 million, or like that sort of thing. I think it is possible to have a movable target for fundraising because.
Part of this is just that. Last go around, the sun and the moon and the stars, and that was too much. But we are looking for goodwill to build toward West Side Park, to build towards enhancing ball fields and what we do with Barrett and everything else. That's why we've been hashing this out now and talking it backwards, is how do we show that we're doing the things that people asked of us so we can continue to build? And if we happen to get that money and then prove that we can fundraise too, people are gonna keep throwing money at us. It's not a bad thing. But it is asking a chunk right now in some ways too. When you were talking a penny difference, when some of the hard work already came down to that perception of, okay, we got it under $1, that will mean something.
Chrissy, what do you think?
I'm like hearing in my head over and over again, like this, raise as much money as you can for it. And so I feel like I am worried that we may not be able to raise 2 million, but I'm perhaps equally worried that if we set the bar too low, that will be frustrating to people. And I think we have backup options there. And I also think the option of, if we do not raise the 2 million, we have some pretty clear places where we'll have to cut back a little bit. Again, like not so many overhead doors, not as nice of a rec pool. I think I want to lean into the fundraising while also, of course, being a little scared that, it might not be met.
if we somehow surpass all this stuff, can you do you know enough about the bond market? Anybody in the room? Like, I mean, can you pay them off earlier? Can you pay chunks down to, is there any things that, you could do with a mortgage?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Yeah.
I can get back to you. I
I
can
mean,
get
that's
back
why-
to you, like,
Yeah.
honestly, I'd like, at the next meeting, I can have an answer to that,
But it is an up to an amount, like, so we don't have to
Mhm.
sell all
Uh-huh.
of the
Uh-huh.
bonds.
I have heard of people refinancing bonds, in the future, at a lower rate.
I'm just curious, I mean, if we hit that out of the ballpark and over raise a little bit, and we end up having a little extra bond money, if that could end up going to West Side Park, or could, go to some other development if possible, or is that not a possibility with the way they're written?
Well, hold that thought.
Okay,
Yeah, well, I'm
Has
gonna
to
get into
be ballot
bond language in a
language.
ballot
Right.
language in a little bit.
Yeah.
okay.
Just, I guess again, also about the fundraising, I mean, we came into this meeting with other possible cost reductions, right? And we've now removed those.
Yeah.
Right, so I think we should keep that in mind, because
Yep.
those could be, if like the fundraising goal isn't hit, those could become a thing again,
Put 'em back
reduce
in.
glazing by 10%. We have, landscaping, we do a massive volunteer effort, the foundation helps
Yeah.
lead it, to do the landscaping, I mean, I think potentially that.
Just thinking about waterfront park.
Yeah.
Um,
So, I don't know, a thought there.
Okay, so I'm convinced. Leaning into the fundraising piece,
Mhm.
having that be part of our narrative and going with 64 cents.
And ultimately, the cents are based on it's really the how many millions versus the 64 cents, right? Because the ballot language will say the bond total.
It will say the bond total, but it also will
and
give
then
an
we'll-
estimate.
Yes.
40 or 41, this is where we're at right now. One of those two numbers, we can get. I'm fine with either.
But we need to say which one.
I know, I'm telling the group, I'm fine, these 5.
I'm for the 64 cents and leaning into.
So it's 40, just so.
Yeah,
40,
yeah.
okay.
And, cause again, that was my only, it was between 64 and 65, and I get, I know totals and bonds and all that.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of having our narrative be, we're leaning into the fundraising. We heard you from the last one. Look what we've done to reduce the total price, by looking at other sources and going with 64 cents.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Good job.
40. 64 cents
So
and
40,
40 million.
that was the 64 cents, wasn't it?
Double.
Yeah, 62 was 39.
Is it gonna be like 64.4 or whatever?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
About the 300,000, like, I mean,
Yeah, I
that's a
am-
small percentage of 40 million, but it's still. in
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering if it's like 60.643.
We'll run the numbers one last time before we go. So I think the main thing I need to know is the dollar amount that you want to say the bond is for. So is it $40 million or that 300,000 or something like that? Just, should we stick with just a very easy, straight up number there and then just plan on fundraising the rest? And work that way?
I have faith that we can make up a $300,000 difference by the time, whether it's a cut, whether it's a cardinal glass, or whether it's tunnel or whatever. I feel like we should be able to do that if we're that close.
Mhm.
Or worst case, our best, alone, whatever.
Mhm. Okay, so you're saying the difference between doing 40 versus like 40.3, is that,
Mhm.
okay?
So, yeah, fundraising or grants. I mean,
Yeah.
I am hopeful that the grants, we decided on a moderate amount. That
Right,
that
yeah.
grant amount could actually be higher.
Yeah.
Oh, you can double that, Martha, no problem.
Yeah,
You got this.
Hey, we're playing safe right now, but,
The difficult thing with the grants is a timing issue.
Yeah.
yeah.
Where we
Yeah.
really won't know whether or not we get the grant money until we're like in the middle of stuff, and that's when we're
Yeah.
going to be, and it's way more expensive to do change orders once you've already got something already bid and everything like that than it is before you go to bid on it. And we probably won't know on the grant until we are going to bid on it.
That'll be where we have to roll the dice and make a vote and make the risk and go with it.
Yeah, and then make it up, on the other side. Yeah.
Well, let's see,
No pressure.
start with
One
May.
thing at a
That's
time.
our first.
Yeah.
Worry about hitting May 1st and we'll deal with that next.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Bond language, ballot language. So, sorry, I should not put a starburst in my mouth right before. A very wordy thing, not gonna read this whole thing to you, but I mentioned before, the ballot language is a very technical thing. There's a lot of legal stuff here. The ultimate, is the lawyers that, we can put something in there. We're not allowed to, it has to be impartial and, can't have, anything that is trying to really push people toward the thing. You can't say like to replace the aging aquatic center, that would be, they would not allow. Even though it is aging. So this is just the last time everything was about new. The bond language was to build a new pool with a new community center and everything. Here, we're really focusing on the word replace the pool. The bottom part right there, the summary, 175 words. That's where we will really be able to get kind of our talking points out there. And this is where I'm really going to lean on trying to get the the messaging, the strategy, people to help us with exactly what to put in there to make sure that it's matching there. I just wanted to see if there was anything that this board really wanted us to lean in on or, sorry, some of this language is here before.
So is there any way to succinctly put in there, like if, you know, if costs of the build ends up being lower than estimated cost? I mean, I'm not saying to put it like this, you know, that the overage could go towards other park lands or development that, you know.
So that is where,
Is
yeah, sorry.
the
thanks for-
maintenance infrastructure.
That
count
is the point of this sentence right here. Invest in HRV, PRD, maintenance infrastructure.
So
Again,
that would encapsulate the parks.
we don't know. We need
Yeah,
to
okay.
check with our board. We just be very careful in there, but I wanted to have something in there that basically, one is I like to lean on the word infrastructure. People like to say no, that they're maintaining their things, but if we could have any sort of kind of opener language to talk about infrastructure and such. I think that would be good, but I want to be also very cognizant that we are being transparent here. I don't want to outright say like that we're going to be using this money doing a whole bunch of other things,
Yeah.
but I also don't want people to come back and say like, you weren't supposed to do that or anything like that. So,
I also would say, you know, also, so people don't think we're gonna use it to buy more land.
right.
I mean, right, or accuse us of doing that.
That's why I really focused
Yeah.
just on the word infrastructure. So invest in HRV and PRD maintenance infrastructure and work that into the language of the measure right there.
So my request is just that we make sure that we can somehow, whatever wording it ends up being, the umbrella reaches the fact that we could put that money towards working on like some of the property that we already own.
If we had,
If there happens to be
Yeah.
an extra little bit.
I'm concerned about that because then it implies we don't know what we're doing.
I mean, it implies that we don't know what lumber's gonna cost in a year from now. It could plummet or it could
Yeah.
go crazy.
To that same point, that makes people uncertain to commit at all. Because they're like, well, you're right. Well, maybe we should just wait a little bit longer.
we
We
also,
brought the cost down 32 million. And we're asking for the bare bones of a structure. I mean,
I think we should, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
I just, if there is underage, I can use that term, and there is excess funds, I think we should talk about not seeking, we're doing the up to amount and focusing solely on Quetzal.
yeah.
So that would be selling the bond in like 2 series, right? Is probably what that would look like.
Yeah, again, this is one of those things I need to, help do a little bit more research on. So there are series that you can sell the bond in, but we can also use like some of our SDCs or general fund money to start paying some of the design stuff, and I'm not sure if that's enough to get all the way through design and toward until the point we go to bid, and then when we bid, we sell the bonds at the dollar amounts that we are that we need to pay for the bid plus contingency or whatever that is. The problem with that, well, there's pros and, I mean, it could be a pro or it could be a con, is we are waiting on the bond market.
Right.
It might be the bonds are dropping or the bonds might be going up. So we don't know how much that is going to either save us or cost more. But we have that ability to do. I also don't know what the total design bill will be, and if we'd be able to cover that, we might be able to get loans to cover it, or that sort of thing, and sell the bond at another time. But I need to do a little bit of research on that to see what our ability to do that is. The other part is what Christie said, and we will have that language in there here. Actual that we reserve the right to sell in series. In which case we would sell like series 1 of the bond for just the first part of it, and then the series 2 for the next part. Once we sell, we've got, I think, 3 or 4 years to construct after you've already collected the bond money. And so but that's getting into some details of it.
To the best of the ability possible, which doesn't feel that way, looking at it. My requested language would involve the action orientation of hope, optimism, and or future mindedness, which feels very much like it's advocating, but I think that there is an intention of looking forward to what this is providing more than just now, talking about, you know, the generation that's going to receive or just how long the last pool lasted. And again, we know this is for a 50-year focus, but just that looking forward, I think, is I can't even use the words, but motivational, but not advocating. I mean, it's,
Aspirational.
yeah, it's really just giving you that look of like, I'm goal oriented in that regard, and that is what this is doing, and everything we're telling you is driving that way, as opposed to some of those other concepts which may not be, but I mean, again, just saying hope, optimism, future mindedness immediately makes me think like, well, how factual are you being right there then? So that
Yeah.
is not something I could put in, but potentially as they work the language, they might find a nuanced way to make that concept come out, and that would be my only request.
Is there any way to lean into the public safety aspect of it? You know, put that in there, you know, for the needs of our, you know, just for the sake of water education in a town that's on water.
Maybe in the levy.
Maybe water, education, but I don't know if I use safety.
Yeah.
Well, I think we got pushed back on safety a couple times on some of the stuff last time we were pushing this.
Pushback from bond council or push back from messages.
Secretary of State, I think.
Because it's
They don't want,
subjective,
probably don't want to mix that in with it.
Yeah.
But
like you can't guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you're like.
The causal effect between saving a life, attending a water safety course and then not dying.
the water education, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's something where you could kind of put in there education, water education, with the concept of, you know, that's a huge aspect.
Draw your own conclusions on what that does.
Okay. Let's move on levy. Levy, we've got, this one's a little bit smaller, but, yeah, I left a lot of the stuff. We did have life saving swim lessons in the levy this last time, and we got away with that, so. So maybe we'll have a little bit more stuff that we could do in there, but, this was, I did change the word to replacement pool, but and adequate funding to maintain or to manage critical infrastructure in parks and trails. Oh, again, the last time this was a lot about new and adding new stuff, and now it's more, you know, we're trying to take care of what we have. That's kind of the focus that I was looking at when I put that in there.
Are there new services? Really? I mean, so on the top line, supporting annual operating costs for our existing services. If this, yes.
The
First bullet point.
First year.
Town, yeah, right there.
Or,
New and
I
existing.
mean, so I'm just. I think we could make the argument that
oops.
that we,
It's
I
'cause it's a
mean-
1-for-1.
it's a 1-for-1 and we would be having, I mean, it's possible that we have new aquatic programming.
Yeah, but not, you know.
But it is not, it is definitely an unknown, I mean, right now.
Yeah.
We know that we still intend to do swim lessons, water aerobics, lap swimming, swim team, water polo, you know, so.
To that same point of, we're discussing austerity cuts when if this levy is approved, HRV PRD will use funds to continue supporting recreational programming, leading to that concept of we won't be able to continue doing that.
Yeah.
We might have to, or we took out a word, so we might be able to insert a word.
We were like counting letters last
Yeah.
time. Like, how do we,
It really is, I mean,
yeah.
you have to be under that mark.
This is the 175 though, this is a lot less than 175 right here. Cause I took out a bunch. So we still have some space there, and like I said, this is something we'll be workshopped quite a bit through the with the messaging people and the attorneys, but want to just, but this is perfect, this is exactly what I wanted, was just a couple of these little tweaks and more of kind of an idea of what direction we should be coming from.
On recreation, I think it should be something more like ensuring that we have recreation services rather than providing them, because most of the cost of providing them is covered by the fees that people pay. It's more about like, we need to be able to like be sure that we can have some like reliable staff.
I think she means just changing the providing recreation to ensuring, is that what you mean? Or you mean? just-
Yeah, like instead of
Sustaining
providing, yes.
Sustaining, opportunity.
Well, what I'm.
So provide is the
Well,
problematic word.
What I'm thinking is like this levy is not gonna pay for youth day camps. It's not even gonna, I mean, really like subsidize them per se. I mean, a little bit, I guess, in the overhead, like in
So-
staffing, but mostly people sending their kids to the summer camp, like they're paying that cost.
Yeah,
Providing the opportunity for kids to be involved in sports, and things
Yeah.
like that,
Staffing to support recreation opportunities, such as, I don't know.
Yeah,
I get what- I get what
yeah.
you're-
staffing to support recreation opportunities so that costs can stay low. I mean, well,
Well, that's
Uh,
subjective.
and it's, some people are going to say they should be paying their own
Yeah.
full cost.
No, no,
It gives you a target.
Anyway, give me an
Yeah.
idea. We don't need to dwell too much more on this. But, yeah, this gives me enough on what I need to move on, and we can move on to the next agenda item unless there's anything else. Yep.
Oh, yeah, we will have to cut other stuff from the recreation, like it says, well, I don't know, like fitness, because that was more tied to the community center approach.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Enrichment class is a little bit of a gray area, because it seemed, maybe
Right,
that's something that will need to be kept.
yeah.
So I just definitely that bullet point needs to be worked on.
Yeah. This whole
Yeah.
thing. will be worked
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Okay. All right, is there anything else on, I feel like I got, let's maybe go back to what I needed to get to have tonight. So, pool rates, got that, got a good idea on that, bond amounts, we got that, fundraising, yep, I think we're good. And first pass ballot language, okay, great. Next.
That.
Good team, 99.
Yay, yay.
Hey, there's Martha, cheering us on. All right. West Edge Park. Thank you, Mike, for your patience in us bringing this to now. I know that you talked about it a couple months ago for the first time. I appreciate last week we were all a little tired after that marathon session. I think it was the latest meeting I've had in 10 years of working here. Appreciate that. So West Side Park, I'll give you a little orientation here. We bought West Side Park in 2021. It is 20 acres. Is actually two parcels. The Blackman and the Skakel Park parcel. There is kind of a fence line down the middle of this that separates the two. And these two areas right here are the home sites. And so it is 20 acres, but each of these 10-acre parcels, part of the negotiation was that they would keep their rental home on the property and have the ability, if this got annexed into the urban growth boundary, and they were able to, we were able to reduce the lot size. Right now, the minimum lot size is 10 acres for the zoning here. If we were able to reduce that, they would be able to buy back these or buy these two parcels. We don't anticipate that happening. And we have 5 years left in this, but for the next 5 years, they are still leasing these two parts of the property right there. So although it is all our property and we own the whole thing, this is area that we don't have access, or the public does not have access to, because of their lease. And so of these properties, this one right here, the Skakel property actually does have a fence line along the back end, so that one is pretty well differentiated. This one does not. There is a fence line close to the house right there, but it does not match the line and where the property boundary is for this. But we'll get into some of that stuff here in a little bit here.
How was the repurchasing of the property negotiated? Like, has any of that been done or just the opportunity? Okay, so that's already.
It's already done. So basically, they only paid for 9 acres, or we only paid for 9 acres of the 10 acres on each property that we bought. And so we still owe money
Got it.
for the final acre. And so the dollar amount is basically 1/10 what we paid on it, that we will owe toward that plus interest. And it's whatever the prime interest is on the date in 2031 that it goes in at, that we will owe back on those 2 properties. So we always have to keep that in our mind, that we have to keep SDC dollars ready to go for those and so I think it was 750,000 in each of the lots, so I mean, and so plus the extra acre, so it's
150 plus interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Total between the 2, yeah, more or less.
Okay.
Yeah, anyways, so when I went out and walked this a couple days ago with Anthony, a couple things to note. This is one of the areas that we can walk in on the property. There are some neighbor cows there that were very friendly, came right up to the fence the second we got there. There is a hot wire electric on their side of the fence, not on ours, but that is something to think about, that if there are people out here walking along here, and they're reaching across to feed grass to these very friendly cows and such, there is a hot wire and a string of barbed wire across the top. That is part of having a park in a rural area.
Rural living. Don't pee on it.
And I think that I can't imagine that we would do anything about this. We shouldn't. We good neighbors and everything, but the neighbors next door might have issues if people's dogs are running up to the fence or there's kids walking over there. Thing, just something that we should be aware of if we do open this up. Couple things, there was we had a big irrigation repair, we left it open just to make sure that everything was good. Because we did this in the off season when the farmer's irrigation is off and we have not turned this on. To check all the pressure, the pressure fittings and everything. But we would definitely fill all this in and put in a valve over here and take care of this before we opened. There's little weird things in the property. It was not nearly as bad as I had kind of remembered and thought it was. With kind of hazards out in the property and such, but there's just little structures and such where we would just come in and clean all this up. And things like that. This is one picture right here that I took where you can see the backs of the two homes, and just kind of if this was open and someone's got their dog out here, the dogs, a dog could run up along the backside. There is a fence, like I said, on this property that's right along that area. This one there is not, but and we would probably remove this fence here in the middle.
Is the Skakel property still using part of that for the cattle?
No, these are cattle for the next door
Oh,
property.
okay.
Both of the properties that we have, we do not let the cattle on. We had, Jeff Blackman did used to, graze his property, and the next door neighbor actually asked, or someone he knew had reached out and asked if we would do that. And we have not done that in the past with this property. This picture right here is part of, I'll go back to this slide right here, that is, this, on the other side of this tree right here, these trees, some of this land right here is not fenced, but Jeff Blackman just kind of keeps a pile of his stuff there, because it's still his, the property that he is leasing. And, I would probably reach out to him, I would reach out to him in advance, because he's got a utility shed right there, and then just kind of a pile of a ladder and a whole bunch of other stuff right here. Then I would just let him know that we are opening this up. While this area is his, he has a right to this property right here. I don't there's nothing in our lease agreement or anything saying that we would fence it off or anything, so. The one issue is the public, I don't think would know the difference between like his border and our border. And so, I would just want to give him the opportunity to either fence off his area that he's got right there, or tuck his stuff away, or make sure that he's got locks on the stuff, or, you know, whatever he needs to do at that point. But I don't think that I would want to invest taxpayer dollars into fencing off the area between his, storage and this other area right here. One other thing, looking at it, I marked in orange right here, these are all barbed wire fences. Some of it's just one barbed wire across the top, some of it is 3 barbed wire strands across there. And so it's about 2,000 feet worth of fencing all in the middle of the property, and I would want to remove all of it. We just don't want to have barbed wire out in the middle of the fence. Honestly, I was thinking this would be a bigger deal when I was out there with Anthony. We started talking about it, and we were like, you know, if we did like a work project on like Earth Day or something, we could have some people with cable cutters going along and just like cutting down 6 foot, 8 foot sections, and then have trailers where we just start piling them. At first, we were talking about just trying to reel it, but we're like, we're not going to reuse any of this fence material. It's all scrap at this point, and so we would just be cutting it into smaller pieces and having people drag it over and put it into to piles that then we would be loading on flatbeds and such, and bringing out to recycle. And so looking at it, it was actually a lot less hazards as I had thought, and Anthony felt like this is something that that we would be able to bring forward. We were talking about maybe in Earth Day, which is in
April 20th.
late April, April 20th. At least birthday. And having it having a big Earth Day event. Of course, Ally will have to work that day. But
Good promotional materials for that.
But it's kind of like we did with the tires a few years ago when we opened up that park. So, there are other projects that we're not anticipating, that we're putting a lot of staff time toward right now with, Parkdale Park and getting that, up to speed and ready and such too. But, Anthony felt like this is something where, he thinks that we could, with enough people, if we had a good showing, that we could probably take care of this in a day with just a couple days of staff time in advance to try and do this. We would definitely keep all of the kind of perimeter fences along here between the trail and such, and just open up like kind of a gate, maybe right here, and maybe a gate somewhere in here or something like that, so people could walk in. But those fences along those edges of the thing we would keep, just in case. You know, as I said before, we can't advise anybody on what they should be doing here on this project, but assuming that some people would be maybe taking their dogs out here, we would like to still have some fencing along there for.
So could we lock that in for like an April date to do that and plan this and actually build around it? Cause I mean, is there a reason not to?
Yeah, there's definitely reasons not to.
Well, I mean, cause I feel like it would be good marketing for
For 1 month
for the
prior.
levy and bond right a month
Yeah.
before it. Seems like we're doing something.
I think it's actually
Effective.
not great marketing for the bond and levy. I think it's great marketing to do after the bond and levy, because we need the levy because there's such limited capacity to take care of parks as one of the reasons. And so this to me feels like it contradicts that to say we're opening up this new spot before we know if we have additional maintenance dollars.
We are asking people to come support that access though, like without you. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And we're not building anything on it. We're literally just pulling off barbed wire.
like cleaning up a little bit and saying, come check it out. And my whole vision was, what is your vision? As we talked about before, before we had Parkdale Park, we were like, cool, what are we doing with what we got? And we tried to get that vision of West Side and putting out turf and getting this going and all that. But we heard so much about Barrett as well and the value in those things, and having this for 5 years, but not being accessible to the public really feels like we could be good stewards and kind of show things. I get your point, Christy. We are strapped. Oh, you're strapped? Then why are you out on Earth Day? But at the same time, we're trying to show everything that we're doing. And if we say, what do you see this as next? We have a bond and a levy. We're doing the best we can. Help us decide what's next.
Yeah, pool
That's-
now, this next.
Yeah, that's a vision and that gets people motivated, especially I think a month beforehand is not terrible timing for something that, I mean, even if we didn't, like, all the barbed wire should come down, yeah. But even if there's some things that you didn't get done because you're like, it seems like it wouldn't be that much to kind of motivate people to come out.
I guess I'm a little bit confused because before you walked it, I was getting the feeling that it was going to be a lot of work and we have a lot of work in the next 4 months to get a bond and levy passed that was defeated resoundingly before. And so is this, I see you're saying like you think it's going to help that, and I think that's part of the challenge. Like, will it help or will it be an additional thing that's going to be challenging that you have to explain, like, why are we doing this if we don't have the money? So, I mean, if you think it could be a really light lift to do it, and we're seriously talking about, it's like, yeah, the tire thing seemed like it was a pretty easy event, but I don't know how much work that Earth Day tire thing took, if that was months of planning and like a lot of stuff, so like, if this becomes like, yeah, it's like an easy, super easy project, great, but.
The difference though also with the tires was
Mhm.
is that, I was there
Yeah.
and it's just that neighborhood. I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking about a radically different, thing than the tires. I think even.
Getting enough people there,
Even in its best instance, this.
Mhm.
On the other side of this property though, this is a pretty dense neighborhoods coming in on the backside of the city backing up to this.
I see a lot of
so
people
that's
walk it.
Yeah,
or-
yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
for some of us who live on the west side, this is our closest park. And so, we're in a parkland desert over on the west side. So I would say that, anything north of May Street, and really right there at 30th. You're gonna have probably quite a few people who'd be willing to support that. And I think that there's special interest groups in town that probably would support this as
How
well.
does it allow us to not be on the defensive all the time and just say, hey, look, we're doing positive things. This is a positive instead of just, I don't know. I feel like I understand what you're saying, but it
Mhm.
feels like almost too skeptical.
Hmm.
And so I think that at some point we have to show something
Mhm.
positive and something we can do. And so you show that this group, like, look, I know we don't have the money to build this yet, but we're gonna at least
It's-
pull off this barbed wire. And this is the beginning of what this group could do.
So like, how, I'm not sure how you quantify this because I don't have, there's not numbers here, but I want to know, like, how reasonable, how hard of a project will this be? Or how not hard, how easy will it be amongst the other things that are on
Yeah.
the plate for the coming months?
I think it's definitely, I think the most.
Slow picking for, I mean.
When I was asking Anthony about it, again, you're right, I did have a different perception of this before we walked it. And a lot of this is coming from walking it with the maintenance guy that does this
Mhm.
for a living and does this out there. It was also, I think, a little bit of either they've been doing some work out there over the years since I was right when we bought it. I remember being like, oh my gosh, like there's no way we could open this thing up. But we do mow it a couple times a year, and when they're mowing it, I think that they've been slowly taking some, making it easier for the mower
Yeah.
by moving some things around and things and things like that. And so it was a little bit different, but Anthony's people look at it and he just said, yeah, I think with enough volunteers and the thing on a Saturday, and I mentioned, doing it on weekend and such. He thought that we could do it in a day with the volunteers doing it.
The
Now,
quantifying would be how many volunteers though, I think that's.
Yeah,
that's the big thing that Chris
like,
was
how much do we,
asking.
like, do we need to like rent,
Yeah.
tractors and stuff,
if we do it with all our own equipment, with all of our own stuff, we bring in, I don't think we'll have to buy anything for it. There'll be some advertising, but I think it'll just be all like social media stuff and things that Kelsey can help us with. And then, And then, you know, the last time we did, it was not quite the same thing, because it was also like an opening of the trail, and so we were doing ribbon cuttings, and we had the Columbia
Yeah.
Land Trust there. And we had all this other stuff that we were doing. This one will be more, a couple tables set out, some snacks, some refreshments and such, a sign up sheet for, liability purposes and things like that. And a big, you know, advertising push. The reason I chose Earth Day is it just has a marketing piece already built into it. People are already looking for things to go give back on Earth Day, and to do. Plus, it's usually good weather, or relatively.
I was wrong, it's the 22nd, a Wednesday this year.
Yeah, but yeah.
We would do it on the.
Yeah, I know.
And so, he thought, you know, him and another employee, maybe a day or two, or so of, kind of prep work, or maybe even like a half day or so to just kind of prep some things out, get it ready. The other thing I would say is if we don't have enough volunteers, or it does not all get done, we can leave the fence closed and we don't open it up, but we do get it.
Sure.
Get it done, you know?
I
It's
got
not-
wood cutters.
it's-
now.
It's kind of like the,
One way or
the tire thing, like, if we hadn't got all the tires out, we would have just do it another day, but, you know, that one.
We filled the dumpster.
Well, and we had to order a second dumpster, yeah.
Okay,
So,
so there's the workday is the one thing, that's like getting it ready, and then there's the ongoing, you know, then you open up the gates. So if we are able to get it cleaned up, will we then put signage that says like west side open space, like enter at your own risk, or, you know, something like that, because we're not gonna have trails there yet, like,
yeah,
how, will we have any indication, or kind of just be, if you're local, you know that it's now
Bring it up.
open?
Resolution 2526. Tell me more.
I mean, like the school district property, you know, like the West Side
Yeah,
Trail.
yeah.
On the, it
On
goes
Pleasant
in,
Street.
it goes into the school district property. There are no signs. It is literally just like
Yeah.
a walking
Yeah,
trail, like it's like people have created like footpaths all over it.
yeah,
And there are no signs.
so we would not, like,
mean,
that's,
I
so
think-
there wouldn't be signs, it would just be the gate is.
oh, I
open,
would wanna check with the risk manager, just as, we might wanna have like hour signs or something like that,
Mhm.
just like, but it definitely would not be like a,
Well, the electric fence, right? I mean, we need something there, don't we?
I don't, that's someone else's property, I'll check with this. But yeah, just a very minimal thing that.
If we had to budget a couple $1,000 for signs. I
Oh,
mean,
way less.
Right, so I mean, we could probably find that to put signs at the four corners or whatever. Or wherever, at main entrance.
$200.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Sounds like we're moving in the direction of probably a yes on this, so if that's the case, I would throw out also the idea of, if we're gonna do an event, potentially talking with the foundation of maybe a shared event on the same day, that's just an idea, not, that's what
Totally.
would be like officially decided, but I
100%,
think
yeah, fine.
if there's gonna be like this big push, like, this is gonna be this like volunteer event, like maybe it's volunteer and fundraising event.
Yeah, every little bit is gonna help.
That's why I mentioned it tonight, because I think that's why, I think if this is 2 to 4 weeks outside of the vote, I think this is a good opportunity for that and cleaning it up at the same time.
Yep.
So, yeah, I would agree with that personally. I
Just
get it.
makes me think of, oh, we have a lot of work.
We do regardless of this.
Just like all of a sudden, you know, I go into like for foundation thoughts or whatever, so.
Yeah.
But then the notion is that the goodwill that this would generate
Mhm.
is part of, again, an ongoing narrative of activity on our part, stewardship on our part, and development on our part.
That's what I hope, at least.
Agreed.
And it does get us out of the conundrum of, well, what about West Side?
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm.
Come check it out.
Well, sort, what do you mean? How
It's
do
an
you
old,
think- yeah.
deep
I
accessible.
mean, yeah, it is,
Okay.
you know, I mean, and at a very minimal level,
Yeah.
I mean, not
Okay.
saying.
And many of the people who are opposed to Barrett are in support of
Definitely.
West Side, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit of a.
It's moving in a direction
Yeah.
that they would,
we have
I'd be
heard
happy
people
with
say
it.
you should sell my side, but.
Yes,
But,
yes,
and.
but I think I'm talking more specifically about the people that
Yeah.
I've talked to.
It'll be worth more if we take the barbed wire off anyways. It's still for an extra $2,000.
Okay, so again, I guess I'm sensing general support for moving forward with a work party to remove the barbed wire and other problems or minor
Mhm,
issues.
to make it safe for
Yes.
public, access.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then to open it up with minimal management of the lane, of essentially the same level that's already.
Same level that's
happened.
already there, there might be a little bit more of just us having to monitor the inside now,
Yeah.
just to make sure that there aren't, any inherent hazards.
Mhm.
But that being said, like, there's not a ton of, I mean, we've got other, we've got 6 miles of trail and we're not out there monitoring it all the time.
Mhm.
We're relying on people to call us and we walk it a few times a year when we're cleaning it and such and look for hazards, but this is mostly just like kind of. It's not like a pristine field. We don't have to make sure that every single dip is taken care of, but there's a little bit there.
Clean it up, put the signs up, call it a day.
Do we need to make a motion for this?
No, it's already been a
Yeah.
motion in my goals. You were just asking for an update
Yeah.
a couple of months ago, and we, put some time into it, so.
I appreciate it greatly. I know we talked about it last spring and we said we'd touch on it again in the fall and we've had so many other things to do but I think it aligns with everything we've been trying to do since the last ballot measures as well and everything. It's hard to sometimes see the forest for the trees and this kind of, I feel like is moving in that direction as well.
So probably be April 25th. It's kind of,
That's the Saturday.
it's
closest to-
after Earth Day. April 18th is Association Champs here, so. Masters Association Champs, so the weekend before, I'd likely be unavailable.
We'll narrow down the date
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
other staff.
Mhm. But yeah, you're telling us to tentatively hold that.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Anthony's the main one that I gotta make sure is there,
Mhm,
So-
mhm.
but he had said. We just didn't actually throw out an actual date, but he had said that he would be willing to work on Saturday and do it, so.
Mhm.
All right. Fine. Let's do the financial reports. General fund, report, the tax money is really starting to come in, which is great. And, let's see.
Do,
I can remember that one.
do you need me to stay on for this? I have to go pick up my kid from a wrestling meet.
I think you, yeah, no, we don't.
Smart.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Revenue is looking really good. This is the great time of year when the revenue looks really great on the general funds, just because all of the tax revenue came in. We're tracking along, actually better than normal or than we, considering this is a December report halfway through the year. Only at 45% of total expenditures, we're doing great right there.
50% for that general admission. Look at that number.
Right,
It's like-
right on.
Halfway through the year.
Right on target. Yeah, so the admin, and direct fees, I'll get to this a little bit when we get into rec, but we, had not been moving that over on a regular basis, so we hadn't moved it over at all yet, and we're gonna start moving that over quarterly, because that also affects that recreation report, which we'll get to in a little bit here. Here we are. So, each month I compare the recreation report, and I'm usually looking at, a couple things here, like beginning fund balances as important to me right there. I mean, it is important, but I'm looking at like what our recreation program are bringing in. So right now, we are at 158,000, about 160 when you count interest and everything. And then looking over at expenses, it was looking like we were about even, except for when we looked up at the admin indirect funds, we had that one at zero because we hadn't moved it over because this is not a normal thing that is moved over every month. We've talked about it. Now that we're gonna start moving it quarterly, just so that it gives us a better picture, because when it does that, now we see that our expenditures right now are actually at 248,000 right here. So about 160,000 in, about 248,000 out in expenditures. That's part of the reason that I updated that recreation levy amount from 100,000 to 150 to make sure that we can cover the extra, the cost right there. And part of the reason also that at the next meeting, we're gonna be coming to you with to look at recreation fees and some other things to try and make up. There are a couple of reasons for that. The ways, the school district, how they opened up, their programs to outside agencies to negotiate directly with them, and soccer decided to leave and go straight with the school district. That has changed some to where we've got a lot less revenue coming in from the soccer programs, which was our biggest youth sports program. Football has also started to deal directly with the school district, and so lacrosse right now is still with us. Oh no, lacrosse is moving over to the school district as well now too. So that's made a big difference in what we're doing right there. We're still trying to figure out, now that we've got our new recreation software, trying to bring back some of these groups to see if we can try and get them all registered through the same platform, but we have to do so in a way that we are at least making back our money that it costs us to do that. And so the school district also has updated with that they, for any contract programs, they are making us pay for steps for use of their spaces with a program that we contract out with, which we used to get all of that as a direct trade for that stuff that they're doing here. So that has changed the way that we are collecting stuff, and it's unfortunate. The way that that's all kind of went through, but we're kind of in the middle of negotiations right now with the school district for updating the IGA for the future.
So all those changes are still not locked in.
No, and some of the other updates, the school district, I think you all were at the point in the story where the school district had fees that they were gonna charge, and they were pretty high increase. They have now kind of backtracked on that a little bit and are recognizing that perhaps a more gradual increase is gonna be more sustainable for their users. So if we were to still contract, be able to take over contracting programs and had to pay the fee, it wouldn't be as significant as if if the fees had been as high as their original projections. So
it just takes away one of the attractive things was that people coming to us, because we were charging at 30% in order to do that, and now people are, if we're having to pay the fee that they could pay themselves and the 30% to us, they likely are not going to want to do it for that dollar amount, but we also can't just give it away. So
we're right now, interestingly, water polo we got the new registration system. We're working on implementing it. And interestingly, water polo is interested in working with us for the registration system. So we've been working on Ally and Jaime, and I have been working on a model which we'll probably be bringing to Mark to kind of look at here soon. That has some tiered approaches, because what we're recognizing is that we can offer some services to contracted programs. And so maybe having a little bit more of a tiered approach. And one of these things is kind of being the clearinghouse for youth recreation and enrichment. So you can advertise and market, we can take on that sort of thing. And that might be a separate, like a la carte offering. And then, having another tier where they might not take the recreation or the registration, I'm sorry. And we do some other services like either like game management, like we've done for Columbia Gorge Youth Soccer. And then the final tier would be like doing registration as well. So we're working on trying to figure out what a good cost model might be for that, but trying to capture the services that we think that contracted programs might find appealing. So in progress.
The Indian fund balance there, is that being updated with every report? Okay.
Yeah.
Cause I think that is pretty notable to see the beginning, it's a very simple comparison, beginning balance, the ending balance.
That is what we're eating out of the subsidy, and when this hits zero, we've said before that we're not subsidizing the recreation fund with the general fund, we just don't have the funds to do that. And so, if this continues in this trajectory of going down, the ending fund balance hits zero and we don't pass the levy, then, we've got, in this scenario right now, if it keeps on going right here, we've got a year and a half. I mean, well, another, halfway through the next year or so, we would hit zero. And so, yeah, a year from now, really. In which case that would be less cutting programs and cutting staff.
It actually blows my mind that the school districts wanted you guys wanted the Parks and Rec to take over community education, and yet it's still, I don't know, they won't soapbox on it again. Like, just insane to me.
And then system development charges, we've actually seen quite a bit coming in lately on system development charges, especially maybe I haven't seen the actual well, there's 58,000 in the county. It's 61% for the county is great right now. Usually the county is the one that's kind of lagging behind and the city is coming up, but the county's been we've seen permits just flying through on the county properties, so that's great. The city, we are expecting during the springtime is usually when we see a surge of SDCs coming in. A lot of people getting their permits right before the building season of the summer. And also people trying to get their building fees before they go up July 1st. And so usually sometime in the spring is usually when we'll see the surge on the inside of urban growth boundary. But already, I think we've passed how much money we brought in all of last year for SDCs, which is great. And no changes in the improvement fund. I do not have a director's report for this month, but I do have an executive session, but I'll start first with good of the order, and then we'll move into a quick executive session.
Oh. Nothing for me. Executive session. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right.
I get the message.
All your construction in the corner.
Thanks, Jake.
Oh, you guys are awesome.
Still, for the record, you can-
Yeah. Did I get, whoop, my bag again? And I'll say, thank you.
Thanks for your support.
All right, we will now enter executive.
Carry on.
We will now enter executive session for ORS 192.6602E. Conduct deliberations to negotiate real property transactions. The district board will not meet in executive session. All members of the audience are asked to leave the room. No decisions may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back in the room. For those online, can we clarify process?
They will, they've already left,
Okay.
but they will check out and then, we can open it back up, to them, but at this point, usually I would just go to, mute.
Okay.
For them so they couldn't hear us, but, and then cancel the slideshow share to them, but at this point, it's better, so.
All right, at 8:54 PM, we are exiting executive session. No decisions were made.
All right, I make a motion to close the meeting.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks, Marty. Thank you, guys.